As we approach the Stanley Cup playoffs, we have a question about the captain. How is Jamie Benn at age 35 impacting the Dallas Stars on the ice? Let's talk about it. Alongside Craig Ludwig, I'm Owen Newkirk of the DLLS Stars Podcast. And Luds, you get into your mid-30s, and Father Time is undefeated. Some players, like Joe Pavelski, stretch it till they hit 40 before they have to make the decision about retirement. And it's super impressive when guys do that. What Jamie Benn has done already to this point in his career, to play as long as he has, from 2010 through 2025, right? That's 15 years now and counting, has been remarkable. So this is not a, let's disparage Jamie Benn, but let's have a real hard look at where he is at 35 as he approaches trying to lead this team to his first Stanley Cup. What do you think about Jamie Benn this year? Because there's an eye test and some numbers that go with it. Jamie really had a strong first half of the season. By the numbers, 30 points. He had 12 goals in his first 41 games. Since January 12th, the second half of the Stars season, he's played in 35 games. He's only missed 2, and that's a surprise because Jamie Benn doesn't miss games. He only has 4 goals in 35 games. Remember, 12 and 41, which is really good for a return at his age, versus just 4 goals in his last 35. 17 points, but it's not 30. The points are down. The plus minus is a little less. Does that back up what you see with the eye test when you watch Jamie Benn over the last 2.5 months?
Yeah, well, the first couple things I would say is the way, and I used to use Brendan Morrow as the same analogy. And Brendan Morrow was the kind of guy that played in straight lines. And so he hit everything that moved, and he would go to the front of the net. He would take abuse. He would abuse people as much as he could. He'd fight when he had to, and he'd fight some of the bigger guys in the league if he had to. That takes years off your career. And I think it's the same thing with Jamie. Jamie's obviously a little bit bigger than Brendan would be, but regardless, Jamie isn't probably in that heavyweight category. He's more of a middle to a heavyweight when it comes to fighting. He will fight and has fought anybody. He plays a physical style, a grinding style. He makes his living in front of the net and in the corners. So that takes some of that, the years that other players are able to look at the Dodonovs and guys like that don't seem to, but they don't have the same kind of wear and tear on their body. So I think that has a lot to do with it. That being said, I don't know if there's an injury. It may be a good timing thing where, hey, we got less than 10 games to go in the season. Let's give you some rest. And he's not a guy that likes rest. So probably going to be fatigued when that first day and maybe just take the other game off. So, and he's the kind of guy that wants to play in every single game. Yes, a lot of things are down for him. I mean, Jamie, even from the little things, Jamie, when you think of it, one of the things that is noticeable but not a big thing, when you look at a player's takeaways, in other words, they take the puck away from other teams, on average, it's about 50 a year, okay, for Jamie. He's at 13 this year. So maybe he doesn't do as much work in the corners and dig out, and maybe he doesn't arrive at the same time. You know what I mean? The game is faster. His face-offs are in the same neighborhood. You know, he's a career 55. He's at 56%. But then again, he hasn't taken as many face-offs. It seems like this year, Matt Duchene, when he was playing there. Now, if he's playing with Wyatt, he takes them. So those little things are down. The hits are down. That's the one thing that tells me that, when they drop. The other thing is like his shot attempts. His average on shot attempts in his career are like 370. He's at 235 this year.
It's down.
It's down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's numbers are down. Now, all of that being said, he's still the leader of this team. And when the time is there, he'll be the first guy to step in and knock on somebody's door if he takes a run at one of his players. And I think before we can have a fair conversation about all of this, let's see how he does in the playoffs. Because it's not like a light switch. We know that. But Jamie may have had a talk and maybe visited with other people and said, you know what, if you can take some time off or if you can get through game. And the other thing is, I should say, his minutes played, average over his career, are 17. He's only doing 15 now.
Yep.
That's just a career average. So you're not going to get to as many hits and you're not going to get as many shots and all those things. So maybe that's a contributor. I'd said from the beginning what I thought was great, what Pete DeBoer did with him, is he basically told them, here's our group that we have coming in. You're probably going to have to move down the lineup. And so now he's not on the top line. He doesn't get as many minutes. He doesn't get all the offensive zone time as the other guys do. But the smart thing that he did is put him on the power play. So he's getting those minutes. He gets out there, and what does he do on the power play? He gets to the front of the net. Last night, for an example, he's got 2 great passes to set up goals. So that stuff is still there for him. So I just think that when game 1 of the playoffs comes around, I expect Jamie to be more like what we probably saw at the beginning of this season, only because he knows what's on the line. He knows that the candle is starting to burn down a little bit, and he wants that championship, and he'll do it a captain, and what Jamie Benn will do Jamie Benn things as much as he can.
Jamie Benn scored his 399th NHL goal 13 or 14 games ago. And that's the one thing about the offense that I know he had 2 assists against the Canucks, and that I'm not sneezing at that or poo-pooing it or anything. 2 points any night, you get that kind of performance and set up a couple goals, phenomenal. He had a great setup on the Duchesne power play goal against Vancouver, but now it has been 13 games since he has scored a goal. 13-game goal drought. 14 games since he actually scored that. As he tries to get 400 career, he'd be the second Stars player to ever do that other than Mike Modano. In that stretch, it sort of feels like we're not seeing what we saw November, December, and into early January from Jamie Benn. Is that fair?
That's fair. And I think that you come off of the off season, you're ready to go, and you get going and you jump on things. You come out, your team is fast and young, and they do a lot of things, and you want to be part of that. And again, yes, age has something to do with it. And I just wonder how much of him is making sure that he has some left. And so that's why I think that we need to see what happens here in the playoffs with Jamie. But I just think that from a standpoint of leadership, it kind of trumps a lot of those things, or it balances out. But again, I think Jamie knows where he's at. I think the coaches know where Jamie's at. I just feel that when the heat gets turned up and you get into this time of the season, not the regular season, I'm talking about the playoffs, that you're going to see, I'm not going to say it's going to be the old beast mode, but I think you're going to see more of what we're used to seeing from Jamie. And I don't want to even think that he's pacing himself, but I think you can play the game in a way where you know that you need to save some. And again, I don't think that if you actually came out and asked him that, he's not going to tell you that. He's not going to tell you that I'm saving it. He's not going to tell you that he's not saving it. This will be something maybe at the end of his career when it's all over with and say, hey, we were talking about this. Were you trying to save a little bit for you? Because he's not the kind of guy that's going to tell you a lot.
In the moment, that's for sure. He's played this is his 16th NHL season. Mm-hmm. You talked about his physical side, the standing up for teammates. If I told you that in 16 seasons, he's only had more than 2 fights in a year a handful of times, would that surprise you?
It seems like there's been more, because when he fights, he usually takes on bigger opponents.
You know what I mean? He punches up, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so I think that the fights that he's in, we're always like, wow. Didn't think you were going to do that. I honestly can't remember one, and I don't remember all of his fights, obviously. I can't remember one where he was on the wrong side of it. He may not have been clearly a winner, but I don't remember him ever being a loser where you'd come out and, oh, man, Jamie lost that fight. I don't remember that.
I think, and all due respect to Jamie, because most of the time he seems like he wins it. He's very good. He's technically strong. He's nasty in those scraps. There's 1 or 2 where I remember, and I'll have to go through them, but I go, he wasn't on the right side of that one. But I am amazed that only 5 of 16 seasons, he's had more than 2 fights in that season. And he hasn't had more than 2 since the 21-22 season. So he doesn't just maraud around. And this is going a long way back. His career record is 5, and that was 08-09. And guess what? That was in junior hockey. His career record in the NHL is 4, and he's done it 4 times.
Here's why I think that there probably aren't more than what we expect there to be or what we thought there would be. I can sum it up probably with one word, is respect. I think the opponent respects Jamie Benn.
And fewer takers?
Yes. And and even it's a younger guy. And it'll come around, and that's generally what your job is as a veteran. When something happens on the ice and you got a young player there, like tread lightly there. That's Jamie Benn. He may not look this or that. So I think a lot of that has to be respect from the other side. And there are guys that, I promise you, there have been guys that have stepped up to fight Jamie that going, I really don't want to do this. But again, I agree with you that it seems like there should be 5, 6, 7 fights a year. But I think all the ones stand out. And really that's because, for me, it stands out because you just watch him go in there. And there's intent when Jamie goes in there. I'm going to make sure that when we come out of this and when I come out of this, the momentum is going to be on our side of the bench, not theirs.
Okay, so last thing, when we talked about Father Time at the beginning of this segment,
Talking about me now?
I was thinking actually about Joe Pavelski.
Oh.
Why? Because last season, there was a point where suddenly you went, oh, he just got caught by Father Time.
Mm-hmm.
Are we there yet with Jamie Benn?
Well, the only area you're thinking of that, because he's lost a step, but not in the rest of the game. So for Joe Pavelski, Joe couldn't, all the things that we just talked about, that wasn't Joe Pavelski. No. Joe needed to get to the front of the net, and when he got to the front of the net, he could still get pucks tipped into the net. I mean, one of his biggest strengths, obviously, was the ability to get the stick on the puck, but it was being able to keep up with the pace with the guys he was playing with, because he was really good with Hintz and Roba, and anybody that plays with Hintz, it's a tough task to stay up with him. So he wasn't arriving where he needed to arrive in games, and we did see it. I remember, watching, and you're like, whoa, like the wheels just fell off in the last 2 days. It came fast. Now with Jamie, it's different because he has all those other things that he can add. When he gets to the front of the net, nobody's going to try to move him. He's going to do his things in front of it, like I was saying. So we're not going to see that kind of decline right in front of us like we saw with Joe. And I hate to use that word with Joe, but because I think if they would have put him with a couple slower guys, it wouldn't have looked so bad for Pavelski. But again, they were such a dominant line, and once they got across the offensive blue line, Joe was still the guy he needed to be.
I think the takeaway is let's see what happens in the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs with the captain. And what do you guys think as you watch this? How do you feel Jamie Benn's impact is on the ice right now in 2025 for the Dallas Stars? Thanks for watching.